Are you stuck watching your 15th guitar video this week, still wondering why you don't sound any better? The truth is, most intermediate guitar players are pretty clueless when it comes to learning. I know I was. And I see it all the time with players who come to me for help. They are all struggling with the same thing. They want to improve fast, but the harder they try, the slower their progress gets. So in this video I'm going to share 3 unconventional steps that will help you flip that around and start learning guitar fast. Step number 1. There is this common myth that I believed for years, and maybe you do too. It goes something like this. In order to become a solid player, you need to learn everything. All the scales in all 12 keys, every chord shape all over the neck, every technique under the sun. You have to be well-rounded in every style and have almost perfect pitch. Sounds nice, right? The problem is that's just not possible for most of us mere mortals who only have an hour or 2 a day to dedicate to guitar. And the truth is, it's not even necessary. If you listen to some of the greatest blues and rock players in history, they weren't the most well-rounded guitarists. But they all had one thing in common. They were really good at what they did. They might not have had the crispiest technique or the deepest music theory knowledge, but whatever they did know, they used it to create music that moves people. So if you are constantly overwhelmed, like there's way too much to learn, and everything you do feels just like a drop in a bucket, pause for a second and breathe. Here's the truth. To become a solid player, you don't need to learn everything. Trying to cover it all just spreads your attention so thin that nothing sticks. So here is what I want you to do. Sit down in a quiet room, grab a pen and paper, and take a few minutes to visualize yourself as a finished guitarist. What kind of player are you? What skills do you have? What style do you play? Be as specific as possible and write it all down. You need that clarity to start learning guitar fast. I used to think I wanted to be a super versatile player, someone who could play everything from fingerstyle to metal. But when I sat down and really thought about it, the result was quite surprising. I realized that deep down I didn't actually want any of that. Instead, I thought about the guitarists who really moved me, like David Gilmour, Gary Moore or John Mayer. And they were all pretty much blues rock guys. So I decided I also want to be just the blues rock guy. That's the kind of music I like the most, and that's where I want to excel. And I gave myself permission to go all in on that. I stopped worrying about whether I could play jazz standards or sweep pick at 200 BPM. That was not my business anymore. And here is what happened. My progress finally started to speed up. I stopped learning everything and started going deep on the stuff that actually mattered to me. So if you are feeling stuck or overwhelmed, ask yourself, what kind of player do you really want to become? Forget what you think you should learn and follow what actually excites you. So stop trying to learn everything and start learning the right things. Step number 2. A few years ago, one of my friends applied to a jazz institute in Graz. He didn't speak German, so we were all a bit surprised. Honestly, he was more nervous about learning German than about getting into one of the top jazz schools in Europe. And fast forward 1 year, and he spoke German fluently. Now compare that to me. I studied German for over 10 years in schools. All the grammar, all the vocabulary, all the textbook exercises. And I still couldn't hold a proper conversation. So what happened? He picked up German by using it every day. He was surrounded by native speakers, so he couldn't help it and just absorb it. He wasn't studying the rules of the language, and despite that, he became fluent in a year. And this is exactly where most guitar players go wrong. Somewhere along the way, learning guitar became academic. It got flipped upside down. We stopped using one of the most natural and effective learning tools we have, which is imitation, and instead became overly reliant on dry, abstract systems. You are told to study music theory, memorize scales, drill arpeggios, do rhythm exercises, ear training, and on and on. Now, this approach can work in a music school because you are there full-time, and that's literally what you have signed up for, right? But for the average guitarist, someone with maybe an hour or 2 a day, it just leads to overwhelm. You get buried under everything you are supposed to learn and still don't feel like you are getting better. I know that feeling. I lived in that place for a long time. But here is the good news. Now that you have figured out what kind of guitarist you want to become, thanks to step 1, you have already eliminated a massive amount of unnecessary stuff. So the next step is this: reverse the order in which you learn music. Don't start with theory, start with music. Pick a song, a riff, a solo you love. First, just learn to play it. That's the most important part. And try to learn it the same way you learn your mother tongue, by imitating, experimenting, and failing forward. Learning isn't just a conscious process. Your subconscious mind is always working, picking up patterns and ideas even when you don't realize it. So then, if you are serious and want to understand how music works, start breaking it down. What's the rhythm doing? What scale is it based on? What chords are underneath? Now everything you learn is rooted in real meaningful musical experience. It's way less overwhelming, it sticks better, and most importantly, it actually shows up in your playing. So now you are learning the right things the right way. But even with that shift, a lot of players still get stuck, because they are not organizing their practice time in a way that leads to fast learning. That's where step 3 comes in. Step number 3. Tell me if this type of practice routine seems familiar. Warm-up and technique 10 minutes, fretboard visualization and theory 10 minutes, learning repertoire or licks 15 minutes, improvisation 15 minutes, creative play 10 minutes. I don't know about your practice routine, but mine looked like this for years, and my progress was mediocre at best. This kind of routine reflects the same type of thinking we talked about earlier, dividing guitar playing into neat little categories and working on each one in isolation. And while that can be helpful sometimes, there's a big problem. If you don't actively connect all that knowledge together, it becomes useless and you will forget it. To use the language learning analogy again, don't just study grammar, sentence structure, and vocabulary in isolation. Talk to people, figure out where your weak spots are through real conversation, and then study to improve those weak spots. You can apply the same mindset to learning guitar fast. Now that you have a clear vision of the kind of guitar player you want to become, and you know what areas you need to focus on, stop building routines that feels like never-ending to-do lists. Instead, base your practice around small, focused musical projects. Let me explain. Let's say I want to improve my lead playing as a rock guitarist. I definitely don't want to just start running scales or diving into music theory. But I also don't want to aimlessly noodle over backing tracks and hope my lead playing magically gets better. To actually make progress, I need to be very specific about what I want to improve. So maybe I choose to work on a rock ballad in the key of G major, and the goal to create a 1-minute solo that actually sounds good. Once I have defined the project, I set a reasonable deadline, usually around 7 to 10 days. That's long enough to dig in, but short enough to keep the project feeling fresh and focused. Now that the project is set, here is the magic part. It will reveal your weaknesses. And that's a good thing in case you are wondering. Maybe your fretboard orientation is weak in G major. Maybe you realize you can't connect your licks in a way that sounds musical. Perfect. Now you know exactly what to work on. You might spend some time improving your fretboard knowledge, transcribing licks from your favorite players, or studying how to compose a great solo. But here is the key. You are still pushing the project forward. You are not stuck in endless study mode. You are learning with a goal in mind. And once the project is done, you record your final result, review it, and set your next project. If you are not satisfied with how it turned out, no problem. Repeat it or try it again in a different key. The goal is to fail forward, fix your biggest weaknesses, and keep moving. After just 4 or 5 projects like this, your rock lead playing will be on a whole new level. I can almost guarantee that. As you start organizing your practice around focus projects, you will see just how much faster you can improve. But trust me, a lot of the shortcuts I am sharing with you today come from lessons I learned from grinding through over 10,000 hours of practice. If you want to dive deeper into those lessons and skip the mistakes I made, check out the next video.